we're on. Hey everyone, I'm Aaron from Canyon Collective. Welcome to episode 2 of Tech Tuesday. Today we're going to be running through a bleed procedure for a SRAM Code RSC. So this is Troy's Worlds bike from last year on St. Anne. So we're still using it, so he needs his brakes to be feeling tickety-boo. So we're just going to show you guys some little tips and tricks to make brakes feel sick. So yeah, we'll dive straight in. So what you will need is bleed syringes with fluid in them, obviously. You need a ruler, you need O-rings, you need either bleed pads and a lentil, or you need a pad spacer, like that comes with the SRAM bleed kit. So fluid, brake cleaner, basic Allen keys, or box end wrench, texter to write down some measurements, and then you'll be laughing. You'll also need a cup of tea. If you don't have that, you know, we're working on bikes, so you definitely need it. So first things first, you'll need to take off your front wheel. So 6mm Allen key. Start that sucker in the side there. Depending obviously what bike you're doing this on. Some trail forks still have like a quick release axle system. You don't need to put your axle back in. Put your wheel as far away out of the way as possible. You don't want any contaminants on your rotor at all. So buzz that right off. You're then going to want to take your brake pads out. So you're going to need a 2.5mm Allen key. You're going to undo the little pin here. It'll have a circlip on the other side. Make sure you remove the circlip and don't lose that, because you will need that. Take your pin out if it wants to come out, and remove your pads from the system. So you'll get a brand new clean piece of lint-free towel. Put it on a nice clean part of your bench. Lay your pads face down, assuming you're reusing your pads, face down on the piece of towel. Buzz your hardware over here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold this over, and roll them up and put these out of the way, completely out of the way. You don't want any contaminants getting on your pads, otherwise they are absolutely done and you will not put them back in your bike. So paper towel, you need to degas your syringes. So pull back and push up and make sure that you lock the syringe off. You want to pull ever so gently on the syringe just to get the air out of the brake fluid. This is actually pretty well degassed already. So, and you just want to push it all the way up until you feel it hit the rag. Lock it off like so. So there you go, there's some bubbles coming through in this one. You're going to have about a quarter full on the front, on the lever end of the brake system, and you want to have about 3/4 full on the caliper end of the system. So you just want to degas the fluid. Obviously any air that is in the fluid when you put it into the system will cause you dramas in the long run. Maybe not right away, but for someone like Troy, whose brakes needs to be snappy as anything, so he only tends to run like 15mm of throw, and his brake lever is only about 50 to 52mm out from the grip. So any little things that you can do to make it better, it's obviously better for everyone. Back that down and then push the air out, up and through, and then lock the syringe off just like that. So we've degassed our syringes. From degassing the syringes, we then would put either our bleed block in, or I have pads that are slightly worn down. Obviously they say bleed on it. I would never use these in the bike because they will have oil on them for sure. Never bleed your brake with the pads that you are going to use for riding in. It's not a good idea. So I put the pads in the caliper. Obviously they say bleed on the back. It's fairly obvious for me then. Put the pin back through. So pads, pad spring, pin. Don't have to tighten that the whole way up, just so it's in there so your pads don't fall out. Now this hot little number lentil, basically this pops in place where the rotor would sit, because obviously it is an old rotor, just cut up. So you slot that in there. Use your rubber band around here and then pop it over the top. So you can either do this sort of system or you can use a bleed block, depending on your preference. Grab your syringe. So pull your syringe, lint-free towel, down at the base here, pop that in your bleeding edge and wait for the click. If you don't hear the click, the bleeding edge isn't engaged. The bleeding edge isn't engaged, as soon as you go to push oil through, it will just go everywhere, and that's the last thing you want. So you want to put a T10 up here. That's the tool to undo the bleed cap up here. First of all though, you're going to want to do all your measurements. So this is what this is for. This is what I was talking about before with pad contact, lever throw, all that sort of gear. So you're going to want to check where your lever is in comparison to your grip. So that's 51 mil. Basically, we're going to wind it all the way out. And then you're going to wind your contact just all the way out as well. So that's all the way out. Pop that down, get your T10, your lever and syringe, undo the top of the lever. And obviously you have the paper towel there just in case any fluid pops out. You don't want to drop that everywhere. Thread your syringe into the lever, like so, and then pop this little number with the rest of your hardware. You will lose that. Same with your dust cap and your circlip, all little parts that are easy to lose. So now we just get into the procedure basically of bleeding the brake. Unclip, undo your bleeding edge. So this is what we're doing now, is we're bleeding the line. So you basically just push fluid from the bottom to the top of the system, and you will see bubbles come through the line, only small ones generally for the line. Basically go until you have about a quarter of the syringe left down the bottom, then lock the top off and leave that one. Now leave the bottom one, don't lock that off. You just want to grab your O-ring, zip tie, rubber band, whatever tickles your fancy. Wrap it around your brake lever grip so it's nice and tight. Pull your brake lever in and bang your O-ring around that. So that basically just pulls your brake together, give you a good bleed on your caliper, and then we can go from there. So that's undone, that's undone. Just gently pull back on the syringe. You'll see bubbles come up through the line. Only gently. Don't reef on it. You want to do this pretty much until there's no bubbles coming up through here and out of the hole there. All right, so we're not getting any bubbles coming up through that now. Pretty much what we do now is grab onto your lever and flick your little rubber band off at the end of the lever, just like so. And then push gently down the bottom and slowly let it release from the top there. So slowly, 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 you'll feel fluid push into the system, and then wait until it's gone. And then you just want to tighten up your bleeding edge down the bottom, nice and firm. Pull that out. That's that syringe done. So happy days. Now we're going on to the top of the system. You want to unclip the red little clip there, and you want to pull back ever so slightly. You'll see bubbles come out. So we're bleeding the lever now. Just pull back slightly. Same deal as the caliper. Everything just gentle, don't force the issue. Push that down. Flick your lever blade. Pull up. That'll just give the air a chance to get to the top of the bladder and the brake lever. So there's no air coming up through that line now. Basically you want to lock that off. You want to put a little bit of pressure down on it, lock it off. And then we're going to walk over here. We're going to grab some lint-free towel and your little bleed cap. Try not to lose it. It's a bit of a balancing act here. Unthread your syringe. A little bit of oil will drip out. That's why we have the towel there. Put your little bleed cap back in and just nip it up. Wipe your lever off. Disc brake cleaner.
spray that on top of your lever there and spray down on your bleeding edge. Fresh bit of lint-free towel. Obviously brake clean all dries because it's a white spirit, but you just want to give it a quick wipe just to make sure there's no residual pooling of brake fluid or anything crazy. Perfect, that's all dry, that's all happy. Now we're going to remove the either your bleed block or your tool in the base there, 2.5 mil, just to get that out. So flick your band over, pull your lens all out, undo either your bleed block or bleed pads, whatever tickles your fancy. Take your hardware out, put your bleed pads away for a separate time, have a sip of your tea. Now find your pads wherever you've safely stored them. Flip them over. Hardware, make sure there's no brake fluid or anything on them, so just give them a quick spray. Pin, circlip, bleeding edge. So slot them in, grab your 2.5 mil Allen key, whack your pin through. If I wasn't clumsy, we could do that. Circlip, make sure your circlip goes back on. Don't leave it off, it's there for a reason. It's there for safety. I have seen brakes, not these in particular, but brakes pads come out before because people are too lazy to put that sort of thing in there. So it's definitely important. So now that we've bled that, just loosen your caliper off, because your pistons are going to be sitting in different spots, right? So your brake isn't necessarily going to align like it did last time. So we're just going to grab the front wheel here, whack that up in there, slot your axle through, grab your 6 mil, tighten that up, grab your fiver, align your brake nicely. Quick tighten. Alright, that's not rubbing at the minute. What we'll do, wind this back to 51 to 52 mil. Obviously, everyone's hands are different sizes. So what works for Troy might not necessarily work for you. But we will grab our ruler just to make sure that we're on the right kind of wavelength here. So one more in maybe. Perfect. Now we're going to wind the contact in. Like I say, Troy likes generally 15 to 20 mil of throw in his brake, so it is quite difficult to get it to that throw and without it rubbing. So that's pretty decent. So yeah, about there. 15 to 20 mil of throw. We will just give that brake a quick realign. It's one major thing with bleeding brakes, and brakes in general, is rubbing. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about free speed in downhill, and not rubbing brakes is one of them. Just like that, no rub, minty fresh, beautiful bite point, happy days. Whip your rubber band, O-ring, whatever you put up there, and smile at the job that you've just done, because you've just killed it. So I hope you found that informative. Any questions or anything, just comment below, and then we'll
try and get back to you as good as we can. Hope you enjoy. I'm going to finish my cup of tea and probably do some more bike work. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.